Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Chef Knives to Go Quick Look Product Review. I'm Steve Gamache, and this time we are looking at what's known as a Bocho. This is the Yamashin White Number 1 Bocho 120mm knife. And this line of knives has a core steel of Shidogami or white paper number 1 reactive Hitachi carbon steel. And the heat treat's around 60, 61 Rockwell on this core steel typically. The construction is a very traditional iron reactive cladding over the top of that Shiroko core steel. And the iron cladding also has a kurouchi or blacksmith finish on top of that. And they also put a lacquer finish on top of that. So you've got a fair amount of protection, at least to start. Eventually that lacquer finish will wear off, and so will the kurouchi finish after a little while as well. But again, it is an all-reactive blade. The weight on it is quite light, of course, 90 grams, 3.2 ounces, and the blade length is, on this particular one, these will vary a little bit since they're hand-hammered, is about 125 millimeters on the actual edge and about 9.7 inches on the overall length. The spine thickness coming out of the handle is about 2.8 millimeters, and then it thins out just a tad, doesn't have a lot of distal taper, pretty much holds that throughout until you hit the grind where it thins out a bit towards the tip. The blade height on this is 42 millimeters, so it's pretty tall for its length. And the handle, Marcus Chef Knives to Go has started upgrading handles on these, so instead of the older style handles with the plastic ferrules or resin ferrules, these are an upgraded octagonal walnut with a black packawood ferrule on them. Nice handle. And this particular handle is a full-size circumference, so it's about 3 inches in circumference right here. And let's take a close-up look at that. These are an entry-level line of knives from a price standpoint, so sometimes they're just a little bit rough on the fit and finish. They're kind of relieved on the spine and the choil, but they're not real smooth and polished. And so you're gonna have, you could sand these down if you felt like doing that, but it's a fairly rustic presentation with the bead blasted finish here. For a faux Kasumi finish into the core steel. You can see the core steel showing out from the cladding. I went ahead and put my own edge on this to check it out. The out-of-the-box edge was so-so. These do have, again, lacquer on the edge, or lacquer on the sides of the blade, which usually goes all the way down to the edge, so you might need to touch them up a little bit. I actually redid the edge on this because I wanted to kind of play with it. But you might need to touch them up at least just a little bit to get that lacquer off of there so you get the underlying steel underneath to see what's there. Fit and finish on the handle is quite good. The install is pretty nice, although you might want to put a little epoxy or wax in there, beeswax in there to seal that up a little bit. Balance point's going to be a little bit back on the handle. This is a pretty short blade. You could use this as a petty, but it's really, I should say a paring knife, but it's really tall. It's going to be hard to do in-hand work, so it's really more of a petty style knife. You can do some in-hand work as long as you're not kind of doing this with the blade, unless you got really big hands. It can do some nice board work as well. So here's what it looks like on the cutting board. You got lots of height there for some clearance. This might be a good knife to break down chickens. It's got enough thickness towards the tip, and it's a fairly stiff blade. A little bit tighter shot of the spine thickness, so it's a pretty stiff blade, pretty stout. Not quite as stout as the Murata Buho Sabaki 120, but it's pretty close to that. It's not quite as thick and stout, but might make a good knife for breaking down poultry, as well as something just interesting. Or if you want to learn how to sharpen and you want to get something with an easy to sharpen reactive carbon Hitachi steel, this might be a good knife for you. Profile's fairly flat and not too long, so real easy to sharpen, not a big old honking 240 or something. And possible option there as well. So here we have the Yamashin lineup with an upgraded handle. This is the Yamashin Shidogami or white paper number 1 Bocho 120mm knife.